Hi, my name is Mary. I like to do so many things. I love to garden. I love to walk. I like to spend time with my family. I have two kids that are now 20 and 21, and my husband. After we had fertility issues, we decided adoption was the way to go. Just randomly one evening, I started having pain in my right side, and it was pretty intense for in the world of pain. The worst part was having to call the kids and tell them over the phone. I think they thought I was going to look terrible. Looking back, I probably had a couple symptoms that I did not realize. I was definitely a little more tired than I am not a napper. I've never been a napper ever. So I definitely napped a little bit. And so I should have maybe known that that was something. I had a couple of UTIs, and I also had never had a UTI. So then in September, just randomly one evening, I started having pain in my right side. And it was pretty intense for in the world of pain. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, so I'm not always like, "Oh, that hurts, this hurts, that." So I was like, "God, this is really hurting." And I'm like, "Well, I'll just." It was like 10:30. I'm like, "Well, I'll just try to go to sleep and sleep it off, and call if it's still bothering me in the morning, I'll call the doctor." Well, it kind of kept hurting more and more, and my husband and I just finally decided it's 2 o'clock in the morning. No one's sleeping here. Let's just go to the ER. They took us in right away, and they did the usual checking your blood pressure and your temperature and all that stuff and asking all these millions of questions that they ask you at the ER. But I hadn't had anything before that. I wasn't having like intestinal issues or I don't know. And then they were like, well, let's do I think they started out with an ultrasound. So they sent somebody in to do an ultrasound. And they did give me an IV with some pain meds, and I'm not emotional. I'm not crying. Nothing like that is going on. That's just not my personality. I was just kind of laying there after that, and two doctors come in and they're like, "Yeah, we think there's something pushing on your kidneys, so we need to put stents in." And I was like, "Okay." And I'm like what? And they're like, "Well, there's some kind of mass or something in there." And I was like, "Okay." The doctor comes in. He's like, "Everything went well. The surgery went great. We got the stents in. They can stay in for up to 3 months. Blah blah blah." And then he's like, and then yeah, we're gonna have an oncologist come in. And I was like, "Okay." And that was kind of when I was like, "Okay, wait a minute, like what is going on?" So that was the first time anybody had really mentioned like cancer. And I spent the night, and then the next morning he came in and he's like, "Yeah, I think I see this something. We're gonna have to do some more tests. We need to do a PET scan, but I see something on your ovaries. I think you have ovarian cancer." That's kind of when it hits the fan, and you're kind of like, "Okay." I got scheduled for a hysterectomy. I mean, it all was very fast. He still thought it was ovarian cancer until he went in, and then he's like, "Oh, no, it is not." So I had endometrial cancer, and it had traveled to both my ovaries and both my fallopian tubes. All were full of cancer, and it was a large tumor, and I think it was grapefruit size, I believe is what he said. So all of that was all kind of crazy. And the worst part was having to call. The kids were both away at college, so having to call the kids and tell them over the phone. I just feel like it would have been a little, I don't know if easier would have been the word, but it would have been different if I was able to tell them in person. And we told them prior to the hysterectomy because it took about a month to get the hysterectomy. So my son was freaked out. He like wanted to come home like that day. And I'm like, "Okay, let's wait. Let's see what's going to happen." I'm literally still at the hospital. And then my daughter came in probably the next weekend. So she could take the train in from Chicago, so it was not far. So she came in, and I think they felt bad. I think they thought I was going to look terrible, and I just looked like normal. Like it's nothing, I'm like, you can't. I don't look sick. You can't always tell somebody's sick by how they look. I did not even know what endometrial cancer was when I was diagnosed, so I feel like, it was a whole new thing for me. I'm not a medical person. My husband's not a medical person, so we just don't have that, in us. And so asking friends, and I have several friends that are nurses, asking them like, "Hey, what does this mean? What do you think about this?" And there was a lot of that. And the care team was a great group. I ended up, my doctor left his practice for a different job. So I ended up just having to find a new oncologist I guess my first appointment with her was in March of this year. So that's kind of a new experience, but she is amazing. I really like her. She's with Siteman here in St. Louis. I really feel like, he was great for me. He was a great surgeon. Everything worked out there. He got me on the right road, and then we're kind of continuing on with everything through my new doctor. And um, she's great, and she's good to talk to, and she's easy to talk to, and she really takes time to listen, which I think is really important. I mean, it's easy for me to bring things up, but I think for others sometimes they don't bring stuff up, or they don't want to bring stuff up. I went in and met with them, and we kinda talked about the plan, what the treatment plan was, and what we're gonna do going forward, and hopefully this chemo would get rid of anything that might be hiding somewhere in my body, or, anything else. And then, talking through all that, and the chemo nurse was available all the time if you had questions. She's like, "You can call me anytime." They were always very flexible. My doctor talked about it, and they said even though it was not FDA approved for endometrial cancer until June of 2024. He said, I really want you to do this. It's kind of like one of the newer treatments for endometrial cancer. And um, since because of my grade stage, and I was stage 4B, but grade 2, they said that, radiation really wasn't recommended for my stage and grade, which was fine, because I felt like the treatment I had was good, and I felt like, and he said I was just the right candidate for the immunotherapy. So he said and luckily for me, I don't really have, the side effects a lot of people have from immunotherapy as well. So, luckily, everything has kind of worked. I have fatigue for the day of and the day after, and then I'm fine. You wouldn't know I was taking anything. But I think there's a lot to say about having a really good attitude about it, and just trying to, still live your life and do what you want to do. And I did, and when I would call some minimal research, I just kind of looked to see like what it is, and then I read, all these side effects, and I'm like, don't read the side effects anymore. If they think that's what is the best treatment for me, and it sounded like there were really good statistics from the clinical trials, and that it really worked well for some people. So I was like, if my insurance is going to pay for it, and the doctor really recommends it, and he's on top of, what he does, and that was all he did. He was a gynecological oncologist. He did not have another practice or a regular gynecology practice, or he just did, gynecological oncology. So I was like, okay, if that's what he recommends, and that's what they think should be done, then let's do it. And everything seems to be okay. The main thing is to be able to live your life, and to, have time with your family and friends. I like to be with people. I don't never wanna sit in my house all day, every day. I like to, I have 2 part-time jobs. I like to get out and about. We love, 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 love to go to live music. I like to see concerts. I like to get out and about, whenever I can, whether it's something small, local, or a big concert. We Last year, I was like, "What are we gonna do? I really wanna go see Green Day." I it was like Okay, we'll go see Green Day. So we went to Milwaukee, we saw Green Day. I'm not gonna be so tired I fall asleep, And so it all worked out and we had a great time. And, I like to go out to dinner with friends and go see people and try new places. And I think that, you have to do those things you love. And I still continue to do, painting my furniture and, I love to decorate. I think doing what's important to you and, seeing people that are important to you and spending time with people that are important to you is a big deal. And it makes your life better and it makes me happier. He's incredibly supportive, and he will I mean, still will do anything for me, drives me anywhere I need to go. I can drive, there's nothing wrong with me. I can drive, I can do all those things, but he, is very supportive and very ready to help with everything all the time. I am the super positive one. I always think everything's gonna work out no matter what it is, and so I'm kind of like still through this diagnosis, through everything, I'm still like, it's all gonna work out. We're gonna make it work out. Don't expect something like this to happen, but when you do, you want to make sure somebody's there to help you out. And that's what I feel so bad for other people that don't have that. If you feel like something's off or you feel like something's not right, or something, you do have a symptom that's really small and you don't even think it's anything, contact your doctor. If you really think something is wrong, you're going to have to push for yourself. If you don't advocate for yourself, nobody's going to advocate for you. Maybe a family member might, but you really need to advocate for yourself. And that thing is maybe, it's just time to check something out and read up a little bit. And I feel like there definitely needs to be more education about endometrial cancer. I mean, there are treatment options. There are treatments, that people can have that whether you're stage A1A or 1A1 or whatever they talk about, or stage 4B, that there's still treatments for you and there's things that can do and you can do your best to do whatever you need to do to, make yourself better.